Good morning, respected jurors, faculties, and our fellow mates. We are Group 2.1 of the Urban Design site at Kaloor. Our group consists of 3 members, myself Jean Elsa, Raihana Shihabuddin, and Ria Shaji. And we are here to present our urban design sheets. On the initial understanding and the study of the site, the theme we arrived for the site was Urban Catalyst. Initially, we analyzed the site at various levels such as macro, meso, and micro levels. In the macro level understanding of the site, we could identify the lack of open spaces when moving to the eastern part of Kochi. Secondly, with the presence of the multiple stadiums in Kochi, people's interest in sports and sports-related activities was clearly evident. Thus, in the macro level, we could identify the need for a space that caters recreational needs of eastern part of the growing city. In the meso level understanding of the site, the absence of sports facilities for the community around was evident. The site also lacked jogging, cycling, and even a traffic-free footpath in the meso level. Moving to the micro level of the site, we looked upon the history of the site, where it was initially a paddy field, which was acquired by the Greater Cochin Development Authority in 1996 for the construction of the stadium. By doing so, after the construction and renovation of the stadium in 2002, the lands adjacent to the site was acquired for residential and commercial purposes, leaving a major piece of land in the site as unused residual spaces, which could be actually further used as open gathering spaces for the community around. The theme, Urban Catalyst, the vitalization of Kaloor with a holistic approach. Urban Catalyst are new redevelopment strategies comprised of a series of projects that drive and guide urban development. In our site, the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium is an already existing catalytic entity of Kochi. In order to use its potentials, we consider the stadium as a central catalytic entity which acts as a central magnetic core, which has the ability to attract the other primary and secondary elements introduced to the site. Further, we analyzed what the site is to the people in various levels. In the macro level, we could understand that the stadium is just an entity for the people only on the match days. Whereas in meso level, the site acts as a place for sports-related activities, for gatherings, etc. due to the lack of sports facilities in the nearby context of the site. In the micro level, what the community wanted the site to be is an open breathable space due to the congested layouts of residential and commercial blocks. Keeping these understandings of site in mind, we further analyzed the site on the basis of user groups on match and non-match days. And we could identify that certain amount of user groups visit the site only on days of matches and events, whereas a larger group uses the site on a daily basis. This criteria was kept in mind for organizing of spaces, giving priority to the majority use. With these understandings in macro, meso, and micro level, we could identify what the site needed in primary and secondary catalytic functions, starting from turfs, sports centers, adventure hubs, events and convention center, cycling, jogging, skating tracks, to even open gyms and plazas.
Now, to have an understanding of the theme, we referred various case studies. Initially, we looked into High Lane located at New York. This project basically aimed at reproducing an already decayed railroad track into a community destination and landmark. To achieve this, they used strategies like agriculture, where a flexible and responsive system is implemented, creating opportunities for growth of diverse ecologies. Further, entrances are zoned in such a way that it provides a key component to attract users. Overall impact of this project as a catalyst was that this promenade boosted our 30 new projects in the context itself. Next case study is Ladoke, which is a sports court located at Mexico. Site being located in an area with high marginality, the project aims to provide a living space for the whole area. There are 2 independent spaces, sports court and a pavilion. Overall orientation is in such a way that it allows greater use throughout the day. As a whole, the structure acts as a union of adjoining properties which are abandoned lands. Next is a skate spot located in Moscow. The project aims to reconstruct a parking lot area under a skyway which was abandoned and featureless, converting it into a skate spot. This also enhances the connectivity around, and the area is also well protected from climate problems and all, being under the overpass. Further, we looked into another sports court named Cool Seaside, Taiwan. This project also reintroduces a forgotten part of neighborhood to the community by hosting a fresh function, which included a colorful sports court along with a chilled spot. A major strategy they followed was to conserve the imageability of the area by adjusting the height of pavilion with respect to the height of temple rooftop in the context. Next is Light Path at New Zealand. It transforms meters of redundant highway into a dynamic cycleway. The project is looked upon simultaneously in two scales, micro and macro. In micro level, it acts as a single pedestrian and cycle-friendly strand, whereas in macro level, it functions to be a highly contemporary urban space. Now further to learn about how art can help in being a catalyst, and the sports court named Pigalle located in Paris was looked upon. Here, in order to attract both locals and tourists, sports court is repainted each year, creating a fresh look and a temporary impact on the context. Moving on, the next case is Los Heroes Park located at Mexico. This project rethinks on public space. The park has all major sports and recreation facilities. A strategy they used was to create overall flexible layout which can be arranged into multiple configurations based on the user. So then, taking up conclusions from all these case studies, we moved on to structure plan at macro level. Beginning with the catalyst structure, from the macro level analysis of the site, stadium is chosen to act as a main catalyst structure. The primary and secondary catalyst systems orbits around this central catalyst. In the design level, the central, primary and secondary will be classified as recreational work and other design strategies. Next, as part of functional structure, the inactive nodes in the locality are turned into active nodes and are connected to the main central catalyst, that is the stadium. Each of the primary and secondary nodes are made cycle and pedestrian friendly in order to attract the community towards the main catalytic system. Now in the transit level structure plan, the nearby access roads have to be interconnected with more cycle and pedestrian friendly roads. The stadium road around the the stadium link road around the stadium is designed as an avenue and pedestrian linkage. Now moving on to the final structure, ecological structure. Widening of canal is done with attachment of green development in the banks, thus acting as a green corridor along with waterway. There is another green corridor connecting the major roadway stretch beginning from the nearby open area, that is the Changambuya Park, the two road in the junction that connects to the stadium link road, the open area including the site, and finally reaching at Tammanam Pullepudi road. So that's how we arrived at this final structure plan. So as all the catalyst functions blending into the city through various embedded functionalities through a hierarchical manner. Now moving on to structure plan at micro level. Initially, the catalyst structure was derived considering stadium as the central catalyst, the immediate residential spaces as primary, and the rest area as secondary catalytic system. Now in the transit structure, the linkages between road, street networks and also community connectors were derived in order to achieve an overall connected catalytic system in the micro level of the site. Functional structure plan classifies the entry and exit to the site, making it more cycle and pedestrian friendly area. Finally, the ecological layer emphasizes the importance of expanding the green corridor and rejuvenating the canal using green development banks. So that's how we arrived at this final structure plan at micro level. The catalytic structure in micro level of the design benefits the community. The residential and commercial spaces which wherein connected will have an interconnection, a community gathering, sports and health facilities benefiting from each other in the catalytic system.
Coming to design moves, the first one was to incorporate the community spaces in between the built structure through internal plazas, creating a visual hierarchy. Next, the skywalk connecting the built structures from the stadium to the metro, creating a visual connectivity and also acts as a secondary entry during match days. The inner outer circle stitch, which is to connect the commercial ring to the outer spaces by employing functional spaces such as seating or waiting or even testing grounds for sports equipment shop. Next is the canal rejuvenation by increasing the width of the canal and creating green corridor which would act as a buffer. Parking and pedestrianization. The site being a more active oriented place where the major activities happening are walking, jogging, cycling, etc. A well-defined pedestrian pathway is essential, thus restricting the vehicular motion and encouraging pedestrians in the demarcated area. Next is the skating and cycling path. Now coming to the master plan, The design demarcates the entire site into a cycle, pedestrian, and activity zone for the community context. In order to create such an urban environment, the necessary alterations in the site and its context were such as the Stadium Link Road to be turned as a complete cycle and pedestrian friendly road, widening of the Sabarmati and VIP road to create an access for four-wheelers to and fro from the site, restricting the vehicle traffic in the site to reduce carbon emissions and make it more cycle and pedestrian friendly as an open breathable space for the community around, creating community nodes in the linkage roads to the residential areas, making the linkage roads cycle and pedestrian friendly and creating a clear and direct access to the catalytic center, widening the water canal and making productive use of it to the residential areas, creating a buffer for the water canal in the site to avoid the hindrance and for safety measures. Coming to the ground floor plan, the main pedestrian and vehicular entry to the event and convention center comes right after the metro, and the major vehicular route is around the stadium. Right after the entry comes a bicycle rental to initiate the site into a cycling zone and explore the site with the same, thus reducing the carbon emission. Then comes the shaded walkways with in-between green patches which could act as a mini turf or a flea market during match days. The built structures are kept minimal to highlight the openness and flexibility of the site during different events and for a free skating and cycling area. The skating ports are kept in such a way so that while no parking, the parking could also be utilized for the same. This parking is the ground floor of the event and convention center with elevator access to the first floor. Then comes the green buffer and OAT to the east side and the indoor courts and ground on the western side. And on the outer ring of the stadium is the alternate seating and testing grounds. Coming to the roof plan, this roof plan shows the built structures. The event and convention center is connected to the metro through the skywalk, and the roof of the indoor court ramps down to the ground so that its roof could act as a roof plaza and host flea markets during events. This represents the skylight of the Sky Plaza, which will be discussed in the sections. The first section AA shows the connection of the metro to the stadium. The first one is Sky Plaza, which acts as a transition from the event center to the stadium. Then comes the Skywalk connecting the metro to the convention center. Section BB shows the spaces between the built. This here shows the widened canal after treatment and the conversion of green corridor into an OAT with green buffers. Next is the skate park, which comes in between the walkway and parking. Next is the shaded walkways with in-between green patches. The inner wall of this shaded pathway could act as a gallery wall and the outer side could act as a graffiti wall. Thus shows the open transition spaces between the built and the community level intervention, which is the walkways. Section CC shows the outer ring stitch and the skywalk around the stadium. The skywalk, instead of alienating people from the built environment, makes the latter accessible and aesthetically pleasing, allowing city dwellers to explore their environments from above. Also could act as a photo spot. So all these sections shows the interconnection between all the built and the open spaces, as well as between the catalytic interventions and the community level interventions. Finally, these are the aerial views of the stadium. Thank you.